In a world where memories fade and time erases the past, there lived an elephant who carried the weight of every moment she had ever lived. Her name was Amara, and her story was one of resilience, heartbreak, and an unyielding hope that would change the lives of everyone she touched. But how could an elephant who couldn't forget find peace in a world that often chose to move on? In a world where memories fade and time erases the past, there lived an elephant who carried the weight of every moment she had ever lived. Her name was Amara, and her story was one of resilience, heartbreak, and an unyielding hope that would change the lives of everyone she touched. But how could an elephant who couldn't forget find peace in a world that often chose to move on? Amara's life began in the lush jungles of Southeast Asia, where the air was thick with the scent of rain and the sounds of life echoed through the trees. Her herd moved gracefully through the dense foliage, their footsteps soft against the earth, their trunks swaying as they communicated in low, rumbling tones. For Amara, the jungle was a paradise, a place where she felt safe and loved. She was still young, her skin smooth and her eyes bright with curiosity, but even then, her memory was extraordinary. She could recall the exact pattern of sunlight filtering through the canopy, the taste of fresh leaves, and the gentle touch of her mother's trunk against her back. But paradise is fragile, and it didn't take long for darkness to creep into Amara's world. One fateful day, the jungle fell silent. The birds stopped singing, and the usual chatter of monkeys faded into an eerie stillness. Amara's mother sensed danger and urged the herd to move quickly, but it was too late. Poachers emerged from the shadows, their faces hidden, their intentions clear. Chaos erupted as the herd scattered, their trumpets of fear piercing the air. Amara tried to follow her mother, but the poachers were relentless. They targeted the young, knowing they would fetch a high price. Amara's world turned upside down in an instant. She felt the cold bite of metal as chains were clamped around her legs, the rough hands of strangers pulling her away from everything she had ever known. She cried out, her voice trembling with desperation, but her mother's answering call grew fainter and fainter until it disappeared altogether. Amara's heart ached with a pain she couldn't understand, and her mind clung to every detail of that moment. The smell of sweat and gunpowder, the sound of her herd's fading footsteps, and the overwhelming sense of loss. The journey that followed was a blur of fear and confusion. Amara was crammed into a truck with other captured elephants, their eyes wide with terror. The vehicle rumbled over rough roads, each bump and jolt a reminder of her helplessness. When they finally stopped, Amara found herself in a place that was nothing like the jungle. The air was heavy with the stench of sweat and sawdust, and the sounds of clanging metal and shouting voices filled her ears. She was in a circus, a place where animals were forced to perform for the amusement of humans. Life in captivity was a nightmare. Amara was trained through fear and punishment, her spirit broken bit by bit. The trainers used sharp hooks and harsh commands to force her to perform tricks she didn't understand. The crowds cheered and clapped, but to Amara, their laughter was a cruel reminder of her suffering. She longed for the freedom of the jungle, for the warmth of her mother's touch, but those memories only made her pain worse. Her extraordinary mind replayed every moment of her past, trapping her in a cycle of grief and longing. Years passed, and Amara grew older, her body bearing the scars of her captivity. Her once smooth skin was now marked with cuts and bruises, and her eyes, once bright with curiosity, had dulled with resignation. Yet, deep within her, a spark of hope remained. It was a quiet, stubborn flame that refused to be extinguished, a belief that one day her suffering would end. That day came unexpectedly. One evening, as the circus prepared for another performance, a group of strangers arrived. They were different from the usual crowd. Their voices were calm, their movements gentle. Amara watched them warily, unsure of their intentions. But as they approached her, she sensed something she hadn't felt in years: kindness. The leader of the group, a man named Ravi, spoke softly to her, his eyes filled with compassion. He and his team had come to rescue her, to give her a chance at a new life. Amara didn't understand their words, but she felt their sincerity. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to hope. The rescue was not easy. Amara's years of captivity had left her wary of humans, and her sharp memory made it difficult for her to trust. But Ravi and his team were patient. They worked tirelessly to earn her confidence, offering her food, water, and gentle touches. Slowly, Amara began to let down her guard. She allowed them to remove her chains and guide her into a transport vehicle. As the truck rumbled away from the circus, Amara felt a strange mix of fear and relief. She didn't know what lay ahead, but for the first time in years, she felt a glimmer of hope. Amara's journey was far from over, but she had taken the first step toward freedom. Her extraordinary memory, once a source of pain, would soon become her greatest strength. As the truck carried her away from her past and toward an uncertain future, Amara closed her eyes and let herself dream of the jungle, of the life she had lost, and the life she might yet find. The truck rumbled along the uneven road, its engine groaning under the weight of its precious cargo. Inside, Amara stood quietly, her massive frame swaying slightly with the motion of the vehicle. The chains that had bound her for so long were gone, replaced by the soft padding of the transport vehicle's interior. Yet, the absence of physical restraints did little to ease the tension in her heart. Her eyes, though weary, remained alert, scanning the unfamiliar surroundings with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. The scent of the circus still clung to her, a bitter reminder of the life she was leaving behind, but the air carried something new, something faintly hopeful. Ravi, the man who had led her rescue, sat nearby, his presence a steady anchor in the midst of Amara's uncertainty. He spoke to her in low, soothing tones, his voice a gentle counterpoint to the noise of the engine. Though she couldn't understand his words, the calmness in his demeanor reassured her. For the first time in years, she felt a flicker of something she had almost forgotten: safety. But trust was a fragile thing, especially for an elephant who had endured so much. Amara's memories of cruelty were vivid, etched into her mind with painful clarity. She had learned to expect little from humans, and breaking that instinct would take time. The journey lasted hours, the landscape outside the truck shifting from dusty roads to lush greenery. When the vehicle finally came to a stop, the doors opened to reveal a sprawling sanctuary nestled in the heart of the wilderness. The sight of tall trees, open fields, and the distant calls of other animals stirred something deep within Amara. It was a place that echoed faintly of her childhood, of the jungle she had once called home. But it was also unfamiliar, and the uncertainty made her hesitate. She stood at the edge of the truck, her trunk twitching nervously as she surveyed her new surroundings. Ravi and his team gave her space, understanding that this moment was hers to navigate. Slowly, cautiously, Amara stepped down from the truck, her massive feet sinking into the soft earth. The sensation was strange yet comforting, a stark contrast to the hard, unforgiving surfaces she had known for so long. She took a few tentative steps forward, her ears flapping gently as she absorbed the sights and sounds around her. The sanctuary was alive with activity. Birds chirped in the trees, monkeys chattered in the distance, and the faint rustle of leaves in the breeze created a symphony of natural sounds. It was a far cry from the cacophony of the circus, and Amara found herself drawn to the tranquility. But adjusting to her new life was not without challenges. The sanctuary was home to other rescued elephants, each with their own stories of pain and survival. Amara observed them from a distance, her sharp memory noting their interactions and behaviors. Some were playful, splashing in a nearby watering hole or rolling in the mud. Others were more reserved, their movements slow and deliberate, as if carrying the weight of their pasts. Amara felt a kinship with them, but her years of isolation made it difficult to connect. She had spent so long being treated as a commodity, a tool for human entertainment, that the idea of forming bonds with others felt foreign. Ravi and his team were patient, giving Amara the time and space she needed to acclimate. They provided her with fresh food and clean water, ensuring she had everything she needed to thrive. They also introduced her to the other elephants gradually, allowing her to set the pace. At first, Amara kept to herself, preferring the solitude of a quiet corner of the sanctuary. But as days turned into weeks, she began to venture out more, her curiosity overcoming her caution. She watched as the other elephants interacted, their gentle nudges and rumbling calls a language she had almost forgotten. Slowly, tentatively, she began to join them. One day, as Amara stood near the watering hole, a young elephant approached her. His name was Covey, and he had been rescued just a few months earlier. Unlike Amara, he was quick to trust, his playful demeanor a stark contrast to her reserved nature. He splashed water in her direction, his trunk curling in what could only be described as an invitation. Amara hesitated, her memories of the circus still fresh in her mind. But something about Covey's innocence broke through her defenses. She stepped forward, dipping her trunk into the water and spraying it gently into the air. The coolness felt refreshing, and for the first time in years, Amara felt a spark of joy. That moment marked a turning point for Amara. She began to interact more with the other elephants, her sharp memory helping her navigate the complexities of their social dynamics. She learned to read their body language, to understand their calls, and to respond in kind. The sanctuary became a place of healing, not just for her body, but for her spirit. Yet, the scars of her past remained, a constant reminder of the life she had endured. Her extraordinary memory, while a gift, also meant she could never fully forget. The sounds of chains, the shouts of trainers, and the roar of the crowd still haunted her, surfacing in moments of quiet. But Amara was not alone. Ravi and his team continued to support her, their dedication unwavering. They recognized the depth of her trauma and worked tirelessly to help her overcome it. They introduced her to enrichment activities, designed to stimulate her mind and body, and provided her with a safe space to explore her emotions. Slowly, Amara began to reclaim parts of herself that she had thought were lost forever. She discovered a love for mud baths, her massive body rolling in the cool, wet earth with a childlike delight. She found solace in the shade of the trees, their leaves rustling in the wind like a lullaby. And she began to trust, not just the humans who cared for her, but also the other elephants who had become her new family. Amara's journey was far from over, but she had taken the first steps toward a new life. The sanctuary was not just a place of refuge, it was a place of redemption. And as Amara stood beneath the open sky, her trunk raised to catch the scent of the wind, she felt something she hadn't felt in years: hope. It was a fragile thing, delicate and easily shaken, but it was enough. For an elephant who couldn't forget, it was a chance to create new memories, ones filled with light instead of darkness. And in that moment, Amara knew she was exactly where she was meant to be. As the days turned into months, Amara's transformation became more evident. The sanctuary, with its sprawling fields and gentle rhythms, had become her sanctuary in every sense of the word. She no longer flinched at the sound of human voices or the sight of unfamiliar faces. Ravi and his team had earned her trust, their patience and kindness slowly eroding the walls she had built around herself. Yet, despite the progress she had made, there were moments when the past crept back in, its shadows lingering in the corners of her mind. Amara's extraordinary memory, while a source of strength, also meant she carried the weight of her trauma with her, a burden that could not be easily shed. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Amara stood at the edge of the watering hole, her reflection rippling in the calm water. The other elephants had retreated to the shade, their low rumbles blending with the sounds of the night. Amara remained, her trunk swaying gently as she lost herself in thought. The tranquility of the moment was interrupted by a faint sound, one that sent a shiver down her spine. It was the distant clang of metal, a noise that echoed with painful familiarity. Her ears twitched, and her body tensed as memories of chains and captivity flooded her mind. Ravi, who had been observing her from a distance, noticed the change immediately. He approached her slowly, his movements deliberate and calm. "It's okay, Amara," he said softly, his voice a soothing balm against the storm of her thoughts. "You're safe here. That sound is just the wind." He reached out, his hand resting gently on her side, and Amara felt the tension in her body begin to ease. She turned to look at him, her eyes searching his face for reassurance. In that moment, she realized how far she had come. The man before her was not like the others she had known. He was not there to hurt her or exploit her. He was there to help her heal. The incident served as a reminder of the challenges Amara still faced. Her journey was not just about physical recovery. It was about reclaiming her sense of self, about learning to live without fear. Ravi and his team understood this, and they redoubled their efforts to support her. They introduced new enrichment activities, designed to engage her mind and body, and created a routine that provided her with a sense of stability. Amara responded to their care with a quiet determination, her resilience shining through in small but significant ways. One of the most profound moments in Amara's healing journey came during a visit from a group of schoolchildren. The sanctuary often hosted educational programs, allowing young people to learn about wildlife conservation and the importance of protecting endangered species. On this particular day, a group of wide-eyed children gathered near the enclosure, their voices filled with excitement and curiosity. Amara watched them from a distance, her trunk twitching as she took in their scent. She had grown accustomed to the presence of humans, but children were different. Their energy was infectious, their innocence a stark contrast to the harshness she had known. As the children listened to Ravi's explanation of Amara's story, one of them stepped forward, a small boy with a mop of curly hair and a bright smile. He held out a piece of fruit, his hand trembling slightly with nervousness. Amara hesitated, her memories of humans still tinged with caution. But something about the boy's earnestness touched her. She moved closer, her movements slow and deliberate, and gently took the fruit from his hand. The boy's face lit up with joy, and the other children erupted in cheers. In that moment, the sanctuary had become a place of transformation, not just for Amara, but for all who crossed its boundaries. Her presence, once marked by hesitation and fear, now radiated a quiet strength that inspired everyone around her. The other elephants looked to her as a leader, her calm demeanor and deep wisdom guiding them through their own journeys of healing. Even the humans who cared for her found themselves changed by her story, their hearts touched by her resilience and capacity for forgiveness. Amara had become a living testament to the power of redemption, her life a beacon of hope in a world that often felt too heavy to bear. One morning, as the first rays of sunlight filtered through the trees, Amara stood at the edge of the forest, her trunk gently brushing the dew-covered grass. The air was crisp and fresh, carrying the scent of blooming flowers and damp earth. It was a moment of perfect stillness, one that seemed to stretch endlessly, as if time itself had paused to honor the beauty of the world. For Amara, these quiet moments were a gift, a chance to reflect on how far she had come. She no longer felt the need to constantly look over her shoulder, to brace herself for the next blow. Instead, she allowed herself to simply be, to exist in the present without the weight of her past dragging her down. But Amara's journey was not just about her own healing. It was also about giving back, about using her experiences to help others. Over time, she had become a mentor to the younger elephants, particularly those who had arrived at the sanctuary with their own stories of pain and loss. Kavi, the playful young elephant who had first reached out to her, was now one of her closest companions. Together, they formed a bond that transcended words, their shared understanding a source of comfort and strength. Amara taught him how to navigate the complexities of their new life, showing him that it was possible to find joy even after enduring great suffering. One day, a new arrival at the sanctuary caught Amara's attention. Her name was Lila, a young elephant who had been rescued from a life of captivity in a logging camp. Lila's body bore the scars of her past, her spirit broken by years of forced labor and neglect. When she first arrived, she was withdrawn and fearful, her eyes darting nervously at every sound. Amara recognized the look in her eyes. It was the same look she had seen in her own reflection all those years ago. Without hesitation, she approached Lila, her movements slow and deliberate, her presence calm and reassuring. At first, Lila kept her distance, her instincts telling her to be wary. But Amara was patient, her gentle demeanor slowly breaking through the walls Lila had built around herself. She spent hours by Lila's side, offering her food and water, and simply being there when words were not enough. One morning, as the first rays of sunlight filtered through the trees, Amara stood at the edge of the forest, her trunk gently brushing the dew-covered grass. The air was crisp and fresh, carrying the scent of blooming flowers and damp earth. It was a moment of perfect stillness, one that seemed to stretch endlessly, as if time itself had paused to honor the beauty of the world. For Amara, these quiet moments were a gift, a chance to reflect on how far she had come. She no longer felt the need to constantly look over her shoulder, to brace herself for the next blow. Instead, she allowed herself to simply be, to exist in the present without the weight of her past dragging her down. But Amara's journey was not just about her own healing. It was also about giving back, about using her experiences to help others. Over time, she had become a mentor to the younger elephants, particularly those who had arrived at the sanctuary with their own stories of pain and loss. Covey, the playful young elephant who had first reached out to her, was now one of her closest companions. Together, they formed a bond that transcended words, their shared understanding a source of comfort and strength. Amara taught him how to navigate the complexities of their new life, showing him that it was possible to find joy even after enduring great suffering. One day, a new arrival at the sanctuary caught Amara's attention. Her name was Lila, a young elephant who had been rescued from a life of captivity in a logging camp. Lila's body bore the scars of her past, her spirit broken by years of forced labor and neglect. When she first arrived, she was withdrawn and fearful, her eyes darting nervously at every sound. Amara recognized the look in her eyes. It was the same look she had seen in her own reflection all those years ago. Without hesitation, she approached Lila, her movements slow and deliberate, her presence calm and reassuring. At first, Lila kept her distance, her instincts telling her to be wary. But Amara was patient, her gentle demeanor slowly breaking through the walls Lila had built around herself. She spent hours by Lila's side, offering her food and water, and simply being there when words were not enough. As the years continued to unfold, Amara's presence at the sanctuary became a living legend, not just among the elephants and the humans who cared for them, but in the hearts of all who heard her story. She was no longer just an elephant. She was a symbol of resilience, a testament to the power of healing and the enduring strength of the spirit. Her life, once marked by pain and loss, had blossomed into something extraordinary, a beacon of hope that shone brightly in a world often clouded by darkness. The sanctuary thrived under her quiet influence. New arrivals, whether elephants or humans, found solace in her calm demeanor and unwavering presence. Amara had a way of making the broken feel whole again, of showing them that even the deepest wounds could heal with time and care. Her bond with Lila, the young elephant she had taken under her wing, grew stronger with each passing day. Lila, once timid and withdrawn, had blossomed into a confident and joyful elephant, her transformation a mirror of Amara's own journey. Together, they roamed the sanctuary, their bond a testament to the power of connection and compassion. Covey, too, had grown under Amara's guidance. His playful spirit remained, but it was now tempered by a sense of responsibility and maturity. He had learned from Amara the importance of patience and understanding, and he often helped her in welcoming new arrivals to the sanctuary. The three of them, Amara, Lila, and Covey, formed a close-knit family, their bond unbreakable and their love for one another evident in every interaction. Ravi, who had been by Amara's side since the beginning, often found himself marveling at the impact she had on everyone around her. Her story had inspired countless people, from the visitors who came to the sanctuary to the conservationists who worked tirelessly to protect elephants in the wild. She had become a living reminder of why their work mattered, of the difference they could make in the lives of these magnificent creatures. For Ravi, Amara was more than just an elephant. She was a friend, a teacher, and a source of endless inspiration. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the sanctuary was bathed in the soft glow of twilight, Ravi sat on a bench near the watering hole, watching Amara and the others. The air was filled with the sounds of life, the gentle rustle of leaves, the distant calls of birds, and the low rumbles of the elephants as they settled in for the night. It was a moment of perfect peace, one that seemed to stretch endlessly, as if time itself had paused to honor the beauty of the world. Amara stood at the edge of the watering hole, her reflection shimmering in the fading light. She was older now, her movements slower and more deliberate, but her spirit remained as strong as ever. She turned to look at Ravi, her eyes filled with a quiet wisdom that spoke of the years she had lived and the lessons she had learned. In that moment, Ravi felt a deep sense of gratitude, not just for Amara, but for the journey they had shared. She had taught him so much about resilience, about compassion, and about the importance of never giving up, no matter how difficult the road ahead might seem. As the stars began to appear in the night sky, Amara raised her trunk, her silhouette outlined against the darkness. She let out a soft rumble, a sound that carried with it the weight of her memories and the hope of her future. It was a sound that spoke of forgiveness, of healing, and of the unbreakable spirit that had carried her through the darkest of times. And as the other elephants joined in, their voices blending together in a symphony of life, Ravi felt a profound sense of peace. Amara's story was far from over, but she had already left an indelible mark on the world. She had shown that even in the face of unimaginable pain, it was possible to find light, to create a life filled with love and purpose. Her journey was a reminder that redemption was not just a destination, but a process, one that required patience, courage, and an unwavering belief in the power of hope. As the night deepened and the sanctuary fell into a peaceful slumber, Amara stood beneath the vast, open sky, her trunk raised to catch the scent of the wind. She carried her memories with her, not as a burden, but as a testament to her strength and resilience. And in that moment, she knew she was exactly where she was meant to be. The sanctuary was her home, a place of healing and renewal, and she was its heart. In her, the world had found a story of resilience, of love, and of the unbreakable spirit that lies within us all. And in that, she had found her purpose. Amara's tale was a reminder that even the deepest scars could lead to redemption, that even the darkest nights could give way to the dawn. And as she stood there, her presence a quiet force of nature, she knew that her legacy would live on, not just in the sanctuary, but in the hearts of all who had been touched by her story. She was Amara, the elephant who couldn't forget, and her life was a testament to the power of hope, the beauty of forgiveness, and the enduring strength of the spirit.